Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Benjamin Eagleton, and today I'll be arguing that raising minimum wage has a positive impact on California. So let me just give you a quick outline of my supporting points. So raising minimum wage positively affects employment, and in doing so, raising minimum wage in California raises the employment percentage. Raising minimum wage in California reduces the turnover rate in industries, and then another supporting point is raising minimum wage positively affects employment, and that would be by increasing annual income of industry workers and increasing employee spending power. And then for the final supporting point in this outline, it would be raising wage positively affects California's economy, and in supporting that, it increases consumer spending, increasing business revenue. And then the second point would be raising minimum wage increases GDP, so gross domestic product for California. Now, one of the terms that I would like to get out of the way is an acronym that I'm using for one of my sources. It is, according to Berkeley's University of California Institute for Research on Labor and Employment, so I'm going to be referring to them as the IRLE. And the quote from them is, using past trends on population and employment, we project that state employment without the minimum wage increases will grow 1.4% annually between 2016 and 2023. Our estimate projects a very small increase in employment growth relative to what would occur without the minimum wage increase. This slightly higher job growth would add 13,980 jobs by 2023, raising employment by 0.1% by 2023. The projection based on past statistics gathered in California shows an increase contrary to the belief that raising the minimum wage would decrease employment. Further supporting this, Peter Brownell, PhD in sociology with an MA in demography, writing for the Center on Policy Initiative, states, in 2009, a meta-study combining 64 minimum wage studies concluded there is an insignificant employment effect, both practically and statistically, for minimum wage raises. Brownell cites in the 2 years following San Jose's 2013 minimum wage raise, wage increase, the city has added 10,300 new jobs, according to data compiled by the U.S. Census Bureau. This is contrary to the projection that employment would fall after an increase in minimum wage. Brownell supports this by stating recent research has identified flaws in most of the studies showing reductions in employment, specifically a failure to adjust for other economic influences. That's also another study done by IRLE. The study Brownell references was conducted by economics professor Hristo Doukliakoglis and meta-analysis professor Tom Stanley. Raising the minimum wage also lowers the turnover rate, that being the rate at which people stay at a job and then leave that job. According to Andrea Dube, T. William Lester, and Michael Reich from the IRLE, they find striking evidence that separations, new hires, and turnover rates for teens and restaurant workers fall substantially following a minimum wage increase. The United States Department of Labor shows that the unemployment rate from 2016 was 5.7%, and in July of 2018, it has dropped 1.5%. In January 2016, there were 17.9 million people employed in California, and in July of 2018, that number has risen to 18.5 million, which is an increase of 600,000 jobs. Now, employees are seen as the essential receivers of this increased minimum wage, and it is shown that there is an annual increase in income with more consumer spending. The IRLE shows that increasing the minimum wage to $15 would increase earnings for 5.26 million workers, or 38% of California's workforce. Among those getting raises, annual pay would increase 25.4%, or about $3,900 of $2015 on average. Of the 5.26 million workers, those who are parents, according to the IRLE, earn close to half of their family's income. The effect of that being improved health outcomes for both workers and their children, and increases in children's school achievements and cognitive and behavioral outcomes. That study conducted by the IRLE, which is conducted by the three economists stated previously, Andrea Dube, T. William Lester, and Michael Wright. And then the Bureau of Economic Analysis shows a per capita personal income increase of 4% from 2016 to 2017 in California, and from 2017 to 2018, 3% increase across all industries. Now, according to Brownell, the same PhD I mentioned before, with research provided by the Center for Labor Research and Education in San Diego, a 2014 analysis estimated that between 172,000 and 214,000 workers in the city were paid at or slightly above the minimum wage and would get a raise if it increased to $11.50. The researchers also estimated that the proposed City of San Diego minimum wage increase would put an additional $260 million into those workers' pockets. In concurrence with this wage increase, Brownell cites, the Chicago Federal Reserve has calculated that every $1 increase in the minimum wage raises consumer spending by about $2,800 a year for every minimum wage household. In accordance with the predicted disaster on business and the economy in California after the raising of the minimum wage, we see that is not the truth. Dr. Brownell quotes, Scott Nye, executive director of the San Jose Downtown Association, had been among the opponents who predicted the increase would kill jobs and force businesses to close. Since then, he has repeatedly acknowledged that the wage increase did not hurt business. Last December, Nye made a video extolling the large amount of downtown development underway and planned, and noting that downtown hotels had a record year in 2015, while more than 120 new technology businesses moved into the downtown area, which was a record in 2015 for them. While more than 100, and then the IRLE mentions 3 industries account for almost 40% of the private sector workers who would be getting wage increases in California. So retail trade accounts for 16.5% of that, restaurants account for 14.6%, and health services account for 8.2%. The Bureau of Economic Analysis shows in 2017, California real GDP grew 3%, and California current dollar GDP was $2,746 billion. Or $2,746 million in 2017. Now looking at retail trade, the statistics provided by the BEA, so the Bureau of Economic Analysis, shows an 11% increase from 2017 to 2018 in retail trade, concurring with the raise in minimum wage affecting 16.5% of the retail trade industry. And from 2017 to 2018, the GDP of the healthcare and social assistance industry rose 0.18% according to the BEA. Thank you.
Okay, the proposition's pretty clear. The preview has way too many points. It sounds like you've got 6 or 7 of them, 2 or 3 of which have minor points that you're also indicating at this particular point. This begins to suggest that there is perhaps a lack of focus on what the ultimate argument is going to be. I think you made a choice to change your position on this, which is perfectly fine, but what you ended up doing is it sounds like you're summarizing this one particular report instead of coming to grips with the arguments that the report is designed to answer. And I think you need to stick more with the arguments and less with all of the evidence. There's a lot of evidence in the presentation, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be overwhelming, and I think the issues get lost as a consequence. You've got so many explanations about X, Y, and Z that you're missing the main point. The main point is that a minimum wage increase will have little negative effect on the unemployment figures. That's your first point, and that in the long run, it's going to have significant economic advantages. So let's talk about those issues. Instead, you kind of go off on a whole bunch of tangents with a lot of data, and like I said, it's potentially overwhelming. I think by the time we get to the 4th or 5th summary of some statistic that you've got on a particular point, people are going to tune out. You need to pick and choose the data that you're going to use, not put in everything in the kitchen sink. And I think that that's a problem. Like I said, it sounds more like the summary of the report rather than an argument using the report to support those arguments. So that's problematic. But On the other hand, like I said, there's extensive statistical information. You've got a lot of testimony. You qualify the sources that you're getting the information from. It seems relevant to the points that you're talking about, but as a speech, it just is problematic because there isn't the kind of focus that you need to have. And at the beginning of the speech, because you list so many issues, we've got a half dozen issues, and then we've got 50 pieces of evidence in there. I think you're going to lose people in the ability to focus on the main idea that you're trying to get to. If you were writing an essay and it was going to be a 15-page essay and you're going to give that to somebody to read, that's fine. But as a speech, I think it's a little bit problematic. You're also a little over time. There's way too much reading, and you're going a little quick while you're doing it as well. So you want to be careful about the presentation. All right, thank you.